So welcome everybody to the Daily Intimacy. It is Tuesday morning. Welcome. Really lovely to be here. It's a joy on Tuesday mornings to gather with all of you again and again, and to see new faces, meet new people, and just have an opportunity to connect, to ground, to learn something new, and to be together. So welcome, welcome, welcome. I invite you to have a breath and gently close your eyes. So we'll start with our morning centering. So deep breath in, puppies and all, children and all, breakfast and all. Have a breath. Relax on the exhale. Gently close your eyes. Deep breath and repeat after me to yourself or out loud. I love myself. And just let that land, let those words land. Notice if there's a feeling attached to them or not. Either way, they're powerful words to communicate. Second breath in. I respect myself. I respect myself. Notice the vibration of the word respect. Notice if you can feel it strongly or if it's just a whisper, but it's there. I respect myself. Next, deep breath in all the way down to the root and up to the crown. I honor myself. I honor myself. Feel those words. Feel the vibration of the word honor, different than the vibration of the word respect, and different than love. I honor myself. And stay with yourself, eyes closed. Bring your hands out, palms facing forward. Take a moment to tune into the outside world, as you're probably doing anyway, with a little outside-inside tension. Close your hands, bring your hands to your lap. Begin to enclose yourself in what's called the consciousness lock. Many of you have done this before with me. Hands on your lap, you're like waiting, almost like in the tunnel before you get onto the plane. Everything sort of surrounding you, overhead and behind you. It's quiet. And then hands open, one on heart, one on third chakra. Now your attention's inside. And you might ask yourself, what one step can you take today that will put yourself at the top of your to-do list? What's one thing you can do for yourself today that will be making yourself a priority with love, respect, and honor? And just listen to what comes to you, perhaps a message or some clear words, an answer to that question. And then I invite you to throw in another question. What else is possible? What else is possible? And then deep breath in. Deep breath. Bring the shoulders up, relax them back down, the shoulder blades, moving down the spine. Release your hands and gently open your eyes. And if you want to share your words, like the message you got when your hands were on your heart and you asked, what would I do today to make myself a priority? I got rest in between things today. That's what I got. So happy to have you share in the chat because it just affirms it for you, gives it a little more oomph, a little more energy. So welcome to those who have just arrived. Please welcome yourself in the chat by sharing where you're zooming in from and where and how you're feeling. Scale of 1 to 10 or the message you just got. Being here today is making myself a priority. Yes. Thank you, Arlene. Oh, look at all these great commitments. Don't allow myself to be sidetracked by the phone. Participating in the Zoom. Nice. Follow through on to do and one thing at a time. Yes, one thing at a time. I love that. All right. So I'm excited to welcome Penny Gold back. Penny is a dear, dear friend and lives just a few miles from me. And it's just a pleasure. I took that deep breath because with the pandemic, I haven't seen Penny in person very much this year, and even though she lives a couple of miles away. So I'm looking forward to having more time to do that, hopefully in the near future. And yeah, and I'm excited because Penny created this awesome program after, I think, this year in the pandemic, somebody was saying, I think when we first got on, I can't remember the context now, but like the things we're learning and able to do and the things we've been focused on creatively, I think a lot of them have been able to come through this year. And Penny was a guest here when we first started. So that was like almost a year ago. And right now, Penny's been creating inner peace for herself and for her clients. And so I am just excited. And I haven't done these things with you yet. So I'm like triply excited to learn some tools to practice and integrate. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for being. You can say
nice
some more
to be here.
about yourself too, because I didn't do it like a bio introduction. Feel free to share anything else you want about you.
Yeah, I'm a psychologist by training for over 30 years now. So, but I would say in the last 15, 20 years, I'm more of a personal growth, sacred depths, transformational junkie.
Good words. I like that.
Yeah. So this year has been really interesting. I mean, obviously for all of us with this pandemic, it's hard to believe sitting here that it's been a whole year almost that we've been going through this. And I can remember when we first started, it was like, we're thinking, we can do this for 4 to 6 weeks, and then it'll be over and we'll be back to normal. And then it just kept going and going and going. And I think, Robyn and I were talking this morning before that right now, it's like we're everybody's getting to that kind of exhaustion with all of this. And I think that we're at the place where there was hope that the vaccines were coming and things were slowing down and maybe we were seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. And now, the vaccines are taking a little longer and now we have these variants coming out. And so it throws everything back in question again. And I think it's another point in time where the stress goes up just because we have these expectations and we're all it's like we've been in a marathon and we're worn out and then we're going to have it and somebody says, well, guess what? We just changed the rules and there's another 26 miles to go now. Like, what? So, really last year at this time, I was working on the workshop that I was doing was on prayer, gratitude, and ritual, which was perfect actually for getting into this whole thing. And that was what kind of got me going. I was thinking about that last night. But I had a whole 6 months planned of travel and teaching at festivals and teaching workshops, week-long workshops, literally all over the world.
Oh my gosh, I forgot about that.
I was supposed to be in California, in Chicago, in Arizona, in England, Germany, and Israel all last year. I didn't go anywhere, obviously. I've been here in Arlington the whole time. So there was a lot of, for many of us, a lot of loss, a lot of grief, a lot of confusion, stress, and fear. And I think now part of what I'm recognizing too is that we also, as human beings, we get into this enduring and getting used to and acclimating to things. And we almost don't recognize how much stress we're still under a lot of the time. So at any rate, I had all this stuff planned. Everything kind of fell apart. And I decided, so what am I going to do to make this year, one, bearable, to do some more personal growth, and to have a practice that can really work and hold me and sustain me during this time. And I'm a little bit disorganized at times and a little lazy at times. So I knew that for me, having like, if you tell me, if I say, okay, I'm going to meditate for 45 minutes every morning and every night, that might work for about 2 weeks. And then there'll be a morning where I just don't feel like getting up, or I have a meeting and so I don't have the time, or whatever happens. And then you miss a day, and then you miss another day. And then before you know it, it's been a week since you've meditated, and there goes that practice, and then I try and get back to it. So I wanted something that was really going to be an ongoing daily practice that was going to make a difference to me. So I figured, okay, I'm going to put together all the different things that I know about and figure out mini practices that I can do. So that's what I've been really doing. And much to my delight and surprise, not only did they work kind of in an immediate way to just kind of, if I feel stress or negative thoughts or whatever it is, I just calm myself down. But there's a cumulative effect that happens that I really wasn't expecting. It's I've been able to really rewire my nervous system, change different patterns of reaction, be literally generally just calmer and more relaxed no matter what is coming at me. So that's been just a revelation and a delight. And I would say that the key items are, it's been like putting together a smorgasbord of all the things we know, Robyn, and even your meditation, I'll get to, like, pointed out to a whole bunch of what I do, right?
Yeah.
Clearly. So it's, but this year it's been about pausing and slowing down and breathing. And so the first thing that in the program that I do is really teach people about stop, pause, take a breath, just be with whatever it is at that moment, rather than we tend to just run through things in our lives. Something happens, we notice it for a second, we sort of suppress it or deal with it, and then we go on. So to just pause and breathe it in and take it in makes a huge difference right there. And if you did nothing else, it was, in fact, I found a quote last week from Eckhart Tolle, who said, if I was going to give you one spiritual practice to do for the next year that would make an enormous difference in your consciousness and your life, it's be aware of your breathing. Simple, right? But we forget. So the first thing I started doing was just literally taking time whenever I thought about it, for no particular reason necessarily, or whenever something came up that kind of got me, to pause and breathe and just take a couple of nice deep breaths, really deep breaths down into your belly, and just, So that alone, that's the first awareness and the first major practice that I do. In fact, everybody just take a moment now and scan your body. Just see how you're feeling in your body. Is there any place that you're uncomfortable? You have any tightness, any discomfort? Just be aware of how it feels. And now let's just all take 3 nice, deep, slow breaths down into your belly, okay?
Penny, do you recommend in through the nose and out through the mouth? I mean, that's generally what I do as a habit, but have you discovered anything about
I do, and sometimes just through my nose is just fine, as long as it's down into my belly, and I bring awareness to just my body expanding and contracting, so that I know it's a nice deep breath. So yeah, just again, so breathe. Another one. One more. And now just scan your body again and see what's shifted. Do you feel any more relaxation? Did any of those sensations shift? I feel more spacious usually after just a couple of breaths.
Yeah, so feel free to put any
Put
responses
in the chat box, right?
We'll hear from you in a little bit, but right now, just yeah.
So that's, the first thing that happened. And then there's another practice that I do, and I do this one 5, 10, 15, 20 times a day, really. And it can take 30 seconds. I can take a couple of minutes doing it, depends on what's going on. But I call it moments of beauty and awe. And what I do is I've trained myself to kind of stop what I'm doing and look around me. And I'm lucky I sit across the street from Mystic Lake with a beautiful full view of the lake in the winter. So I look out on the water and I might just see the sunlight sparkling on the water, or the seagulls flying by, or the Canadian geese honking. And lately I've got bald eagles that are coming and giving me beautiful displays of eagleness. But whatever, it's just simple, literally the water, the lake, the sunshine, and you notice something that makes your heart happy, that is just beautiful. And pause and breathe that in. Just breathe it deep down into yourself. And then really, it's what Robyn was talking about with the words. It's you vibrate that feeling. You really let that feeling come in. And with each breath, I imagine that it's just washing over me and into all the cells of my body. And so I spend 30 seconds to 2 minutes being with that moment of beauty and awe. But I don't just, what happens most of the time in our lives is that we notice these things and then we're on to the next thing. And we don't take it in, we don't absorb it. So when you begin to shift your attention to really absorbing these moments, to vibrating them, to letting them really touch your heart and your spirit and your soul and nourish you, it makes a huge impact on your nervous system. And here's it. We're human beings are wired very funny. We're still wired as if we're sort of cavemen, and that there's a threat of a tiger or a bear or something that's going to kill us all around. And so our nervous system is always sort of on alert, looking for what's the next threat that we're going to need to deal with. And we don't have very many threats, but our nervous system doesn't know the difference. If it's a car honking or somebody yelling down the road, we go into some kind of contraction and ready to go into fight or flight. And we're geared for that because we're geared for survival. And that's what our nervous systems pay attention to. So, even in the news, right? What does the news tell you about? It tells you about all the bad things that are happening in the world and all the things that you need to be scared about and upset about. So what this practice does is it retrains your brain to start noticing all the beautiful things that are around, all the abundance that's right there any moment that you need it at all. Literally, look out your window, look around your room, and you'll see things that kind of touch your heart or make you smile, or are things that you appreciate having. So it's a powerful practice in giving you a foundation into abundance and out of scarcity and out of fear. So from that place, for me, I just reach a calmer way of being to just have that practice. So those two things, pausing and breathing, and starting to train yourself to really pay attention all the time to these moments of beauty and awe that are around us, are just really, really powerful practices. So,
yeah. Penny, I feel like interjecting something about the neuroplasticity piece, because you're referencing. Feel free to add as well, but I've shared here, I think, a little bit about neuroplasticity, and it really is about rewiring the brain, like you said, that there's these, patterns that are just really solid and in a groove, and they are usually steeped in negativity or fear or catastrophizing or creating intensity, or because our bodies and our minds are just used to doing this pattern. And for those of us, many of us who had trauma as a child, those patterns got, their groove really early. And the research now is really solid that we actually can change those patterns and create new pathways, new blood flow, new directions. And, you named it. One of the things you said in the beginning was that the repetition was building on itself. And, we hear that all the time, like if you meditate every day, like you're gonna, it builds, but it really is true, because you're creating this new pathway. And at first it's not a very deep, it's not a groove at all, right? But every time you interrupt a negative thought or a fear or anything that comes up and counter it with the things you're saying, exactly, you start to create a new groove of positivity. And then you have what you're experiencing, Penny, which is overall a deeper relaxation and less reactivity to the things that are happening, because those things are still happening, right, in your life. It's not like those have changed.
Absolutely. Yeah. Life doesn't stop just because. Absolutely. Yeah. And it's it's very powerful. And the cool thing is that it doesn't have to be a long involved practice. These brief moments that you do repeatedly over time make a huge difference. They do the work of the rewiring. So for me, that was like, wow, it was definitely made for my psyche and how I work. It was really beautiful. So, I wanted to ask all of you right now, if you look around your room or out your window, can you find something that and if it's an object that you can even pick up and hold, something that is special to you, something that warms your heart, that brings a smile to your face? Or just look out your window, and nature for me is a never-ending source of moments of beauty and awe. And if you have it, just take it in your hand or put your eyes on it right now, and take a moment to just take it in, breathe it in, allow it to really touch your heart. Just be with it.
And there's a kind of fake it till you make it, right? Because sometimes I know I'm looking at it and I'm like, yeah, well, that's not that interesting. But I just want to add another hack. I feel like we're using, like, we're not saying hack, but there's like, these are all sort of like relaxation hacks. But I mean, maybe you've done this too, Penny, but like just putting a smile on your face,
Uh-huh. Well,
Right?
that actually is so powerful because they've done studies now, and the mouth has so many little muscles and nerves that when you smile, it triggers your brain to feel happy. Who knew,
Exactly.
right?
Because our
Yeah.
brains don't know, right? They just believe the input we tell them.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Which is part of the problem, right? If we go off on some story and we're just sort of making it up in our head about the future related to a fear, then our body believes that that's actually what's happening now and goes into like full on panic mode. And like you said, protective mode. Meanwhile, like nothing's happening, right? So the same
Right.
thing, if I'm sitting here smiling, my brain and body are like, yeah, she's happy, like flood those emotions, flood those hormones. Like that feels good.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
And it does, it causes this whole cascade of neurotransmitters and changes in your body chemistry that actually flood us with good feelings. So your it's our own body's little pharmacy that gets it work, and we have a happy pharmacy and a, oh my God, I'm scared and upset and crazed pharmacy.
Yes. That's the one that looks like my shelf with all the supplements and, tinctures on
Right.
it.
Right. It's so crazy. So, those are, and I really tell people, it's like, for me, build the practice of connecting to positive feelings and to abundance as kind of a foundation so that you have that as a resource that you can tap into. And then, the next step of the practices that I go to are to start noticing the things that trigger you, that scare you. Like you're sitting there and all of a sudden some negative thought comes on. Somebody says something, you're like, oh, I can't believe I did that. Or why didn't I call them? And they're never going to talk to me again. And I'm such a horrible person. And well, whatever it is that, we go into. So when those things happen, when something scares us, when we're judgmental or we feel judged and criticized, and you go into contraction, and your sympathetic nervous system gets stimulated, and you go into the threat kind of fight or flight or numb out kind of modality automatically. And we all have, like Arvin said, we have these grooves in place. So something triggers us, the thoughts come up, the reaction happens in our body, and we go off and running in a flash. I mean, it's fast often for those familiar patterns that we get stuck in all the time. We don't they're habits, and so we don't even have to think about them. We're just often running on the same old pattern. So when you can catch those, you start to bring awareness to, oh, I got this negative thing, and oh, somebody just said this, and I'm ready to like punch them out. That's where you take that noticing and you pause and you breathe. And because you've been doing that all day and you're training yourself to stop and pause and breathe, you can do that. And that automatically, one, it's a pattern interrupt. So you stop your normal pattern, you create just a little bit of space in there for yourself emotionally. And when you breathe a couple of slow, deep breaths, you stimulate the polyvagal nerve, and the parasympathetic nervous system is what happens physiologically. And that relaxes you a little bit. From a relaxed place, then you have the choice of doing some different things. Sometimes it's enough to just do that. Break the pattern, pause, and breathe. Sometimes that takes care of it. You can stop right there. If that isn't enough, which is also often the case, then what I do is I go down into the body. Now, there's a whole nother, I can spend a whole lesson just on how we deal with the negative thoughts. So I'm not going to go there, but essentially the trick is you figure out, I show people ways, but you have ways of turning off the negative thoughts or just putting them in the background. Ask them to, I'll come back to you. Right now, I'm going to go pay attention to the body. And you go down into your body. And because every time we're triggered, every time we're upset, every time we're scared, there's not just the thoughts, which our ego loves to be very dominant, and those thoughts love to take over, but our body has a reaction. It's in our bodies. So you go down into your body and just find, where is that? What am I feeling? And
Can
just
we
be with the sensation.
can we do that, Penny? Can you guide us in that? I'm finding like I want to have an experience of that.
Well, yeah. Again,
make up a negative thought in a moment. But that's
exactly. So it's a little harder sometimes to stimulate the feeling when you're trying to make it up. But if you have something that's going on for you that you're feeling scared about, negative about, judgmental, you're in an argument with somebody, bring that to mind. And then just take a breath and go down into your body and see if you can find where that is. Where is it located? What does it feel like? How big is it? Is it moving? Is it steady? Sometimes it's a tightness in your stomach, or a contraction around your heart, or your throat feels like it's going to close. Whatever it is, just be with it. You don't have to change it. You don't have to do anything at all, except bring compassion and just a willingness. And just let your body know, I want to just be with you right now. I'm feeling you. I welcome you. And then just breathe into it and watch. Feel it, be with it, see what happens. If it changes, sometimes it gets bigger for a little bit. Sometimes it just fades within a few seconds. And just let your body know you're willing to be there, to listen, and just bring love and compassion. Another breath. Yeah. And you can come back.
I'd love to hear from anybody who would like to share as you gently come back. Just type me in the chat what that was like. Wow, that got rid of my headache behind my eyes. Thank you. I had this like vague headache and burning, and honestly, within the first breath of going there, it went away.
Yeah, I'm astonished at how quickly that often happens. And if it doesn't, then it usually is, there's a whole nother process that I'll take people through, being able to kind of, so first of all, when you go down into your body and you're going to be with the sensation, that's a radical act of self-love, folks. That's a radical act of self-love right there. It's saying, I want to pay attention to you. I want to be with you. You're important enough for me to be here and be with you through whatever this is that we're going through and I'm feeling. And then when you bring compassion and you can release oh, why am I feeling this way? This is terrible. I wish this would stop. Oh my God, I'm such a bad person that I'm feeling so whatever it is. If you can bring compassion and just be with it and breathe into it, that's another act of great love to be with. And then the next thing that I teach people is how to just bring curiosity to that part. Because what all of us want, and what our body wants too, is for us to pay attention. It wants to be seen, to be heard, to be felt, to be honored. Yeah. So it's, then you can go into a process when you get into the curiosity, if you want to find out more about what's going on and what's underneath it, of inquiry of, what do you want from me? What would you like me to know? What can I do for you? And then I can go into, you can go into whole, very deep dialogues with yourself, with your body.
I love what you
But
said, Penny. It's a radical act of self-love. Like that just hit me really strongly. Of course it is, but just to name it that way and hold it that way. I mean, I say, of course it is, but maybe it's not. I was like, it felt like parts of me heard that for the first time. And like, I had this experience of like, wow, I really loved myself well there. And I mean, it's my main focus in life. So it just gave me
yeah.
this great, deep experience. I'm curious if anybody else wants to share. We'd love to hear all your voices. So who would like to share? Let's have somebody like thoughts on what's been shared so far, experience with that exercise if you want. It, whatever the experience was, positive or not, doesn't, that doesn't matter. It's just nice to hear. So just put me in the chat and then you can unmute. And we'll wait patiently. Go ahead. I know somebody has something to share. And it's so nice. All right, Paul. Hey, Paul.
Unmute. I'm unmuting myself now. Okay.
Good.
Yeah. So I actually was doing this activity last night. I had a little bit of a stomach ache after downing a few cinnamon buns. So they were vegan cinnamon buns, and boy, they were really good, fresh out of the oven. And so it's hard to stop eating them. So I think I had one too many. And so anyway, I was lying in bed and I had this little bit of a stomach ache, and I just went into my body and just was present there and just noticed it, like was just present with the feeling rather than like kind of the usual reaction of just like being upset with this part of my body. I just kind of went into that space and just was present with it. That's all. Didn't judge it, didn't try to make it go away. And it did go away. It went away in about 2 minutes. So I was like, boy, this really works. This is really working. So I was really happy about that. So I just kind of like did it and it worked. And without having an expectation of it working.
That's
so
beautiful.
It was really wonderful.
Yeah.
It's really fantastic when you can actually take some knowledge, put it into practice, watch it manifest and become something really fantastic. And it got me in touch with the idea that we are really much more able to interact with our own bodies physically through that channel of awareness than we give ourselves credit for.
Yeah.
We tend to default on like, oh, I'll just get like a Tums or I will just, whatever, do something medically where, some substance is relied upon outside of ourselves. And the reality might be that we really have everything that we need right within ourselves.
Right.
Within that space of awareness. So I just wanted to share that from last night. It was a great experience.
It's the perfect story and exactly the experience that I find people have, that I have. And, it's because when our usual, almost the intuitive thing that people do is you go into contraction around something like that, or into self-judgment or criticism. And when we do that, you can pretty much bet that anytime there's judgment that arises and trying to push something away, you're in a state of resistance. You're fighting what is. We're in an argument with reality. We're saying like, I don't like you. Why don't you go away? This is not what I want in my life right now, right? And when we resist things, we're putting a lot of energy into them. We actually tend to make them worse and bigger. So when you shift that and you just go into, okay, I'm going to be with you. I'm just going to be with you and just allow. That actually opens up the channels for the energy. All these feelings that we have, they're energy, and energy likes to move. But if we hold on to it and we fight it, we block it moving, and then it just gets angry. You know, it's like a little kid saying, pay attention to me.
Exactly.
Well, that was a beautiful story. Thank you.
Thank you.
Who else would like to share? Any experience of that or the opposite of that? I have a tool I've been using, Penny, called Return to Sender. And it's kind of an odd one, but I'll share it. And that is that there's a belief that everything we experience came from somebody else, like was handed down to us at birth. We took in those first 6 years when we were, you know, just totally in the bubble of parent or caregiver. And then, you know, that's how we learned about the world. Love Bruce Lipton's work there, a little plug for Bruce Lipton. And then we kind of actualize and manifest all those things we learned that, from people doing their best in the world with their own struggles and traumas, right? So there's this piece of study that kind of everything we're experiencing, physical, emotional, is actually somebody else's. And all we have to do is ask, whose is this? You know, who does this belong to? And you might see somebody or not, and then you just say return to sender. Now, it sounds odd, and you like repeat that as a mantra. You can say it to yourself, 10, 15, 20 times. It takes 30 seconds. It sounds odd. However, I really suggest trying it. I have had what I would feel and experience as miraculous recovery from things just in the last 2 weeks, really powerful, including an intense tightness and pain in my lower back that was 3 days I could barely move. And I finally realized, what am I doing? I should send this back to somebody. I mean, I was stretching and yoga and heat and ice and nothing's working, honestly. And I was so fed up. I'm like, oh my God, how could I have this restriction in my body? So I just did a return to sender, and I'm not kidding. It is completely gone since I did
great.
That.
That's great. Yeah, it's, these practices, and I'm just loving it because they're pretty straightforward and simple, and they don't take all that long, but they're so powerful. I had years of therapy, years of understanding various traumas and why I would have a reaction to this particular kind of interaction and stuff. All the insight in the world didn't do a thing to change my body's reaction to it. My body would still go into whatever the contraction was. So, I had a dad who yelled a lot, and I would have a response to that. And when and particularly, it would be these unexpected, you'd be having a normal conversation and think everything was fine. And all of a sudden there'd be an explosion. So that sequence of interactions for me puts me into that state where I close down on one level and I go into fight mode. So I can get into that, when things are straight, I can get into that with my partner, and he'll respond in a way that I feel is judgmental or nasty. And I'll go into this, I'm ready to fight. And things go downhill at that point, right? And it was just this visceral reaction. I started doing this practice and pausing and going into the feeling that was in my body and having this dialogue. And it turned out this little girl, my 10-year-old self, was wanting attention and needed to be with her. And I just asked, so what's going on? What do you need from me? And she said, I need you to know that even though I look really brave, I was really scared, and I want you to hold me because I'm scared. Okay. I did that a few times. We did some more work with it. And now I don't have that reaction. And I've been trying to I thought I was going to die with that interaction going on. I really didn't think anything was going to get to that. And it's pretty much gone now. And when it does come up a little bit, I just breathe into it, tell her I'm there with her, goes away.
That's great.
So it's a beautiful process, and our bodies have enormous wisdom, and they don't, the body doesn't lie to you the way that the mind can.
True. And when the body is making some noise, it's because we're not listening. Well, my feeling is because we're not listening otherwise. So it has to get louder and louder, like lower back. Oh my God.
Exactly. Wow. Exactly. Yeah.
So we have a couple more minutes. I wonder if anybody has any questions for you and your process, like any more details about, any about your experience, Penny, any questions about any of the practices? Let's leave a space for questions. Unmute yourself. You could just put me in the chat, or you could just unmute. It's quiet and sleepy in here today, isn't it? That's cool. I like it. That's how I feel. Leslie Ann, great. Would love to hear from you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Penny, I have a question. Sometimes I feel like thoughts are not necessarily, so sometimes thoughts can appear and there's no physical, like there's no body sensation accompanying it, or I mean, there's always a body, there's always things have sensations in the body, but sometimes thoughts, like some kinds of obsessive thoughts, for me, sometimes there's no physical reaction. They're just like, I just notice them, like, you know, there's this, they have this clinging quality, this obsessive quality, but my body's, there's no reaction in the body. So I wonder if that's something you also observed, and what your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, my guess is that there's probably something in the body, but the mind is often what we're used to paying attention to, and what's loud, and that's fine. The biggest thing that you can do with that really is, with these negative thoughts, is again notice them and breathe into it, and then go into some. You can do some inquiry, just. The simple starting questions from Byron Katie's the work. I don't know if people know her, but sometimes I just simply asking the thought comes up, and you say, is that true? Am I 100% sure that that's true? And it's like, how do we interrupt the pattern? The brain gets into these things and it just gets going, and you want to like stop, interrupt your normal pattern and question it. You can also then, the next question that she asks is, who would I be if I didn't have this thought? So then you just begin to go into an inquiry with the negative thinking, and to question it, and to supplant, well, how would I like to think? What would be a better thought to have right now? We don't often recognize how much we actually have a choice about what thoughts we have. And our ego would like us not to know that, actually, because then it doesn't get to be in charge. So you can say, that thought's not working for me. I think it would be much better if I noticed these things and changed over here.
Thank you.
It also reminds me, Penny and Leslie Ann, that of these, just to go back to what the brain does, like some of it for me, the way I'm understanding it these days, is it's just like, it's sort of an addiction my brain has. And it's not attached or rooted sometimes in anything.
Exactly. Right? And I don't feel like it's bad. It's just happening,
Right.
And I'm just noticing, like, oh, this is going around, but it doesn't bother me. And I think that's why there's no sensation. It's just like, okay. And I might choose to go that way or not, but yeah.
Yeah, that's when I also especially use the return to sender practice. Sometimes other people's stuff is just hanging around, like Christian said, you know, when I have thoughts like that, it's almost like they inhabit this physical space outside my body. So we all have these luminous fields that are around our bodies, like, you know, arm's length out all around us. And yeah, stuff hangs out in that field, and we need to clean and clear that field, just like we need to clean and clear our bodies, you know, brush our teeth and take a shower. So, but this doesn't get tended to because we're not used to knowing about that space. But yeah, those thoughts are hanging out, and even a round of sun salutation and just intentionally clearing, you know, yoga is great for clearing the luminous field. But we're just saying simply, like I think Beth was saying in the chat, you know, whatever is not me and my true self that's in this energy field, return to sender.
Yeah. Sometimes too, just shaking, you know, getting up and just shaking, moving your body just changes your energy field. It changes your state. It's like what animals do, why they don't get traumatized. They have a trauma, you know, some predators right there, they're frozen. And as soon as the threat's gone, they just shake and then they prance right off and go off in the field. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's really true. Yeah, we've done some of that too in the daily intimacy. I don't remember with who, but we did this great morning shake. It was like so powerful in terms of releasing those good hormones. Yeah, it's really great practice.
Yeah, we forget to move our bodies and
yeah. Thank you, Penny. There's so many. You brought up so many great practices. The breath. Feel free to summarize them in a moment. And I think, you know, like we started talking about, you know, we're in a marathon, and, you know, maybe we are going to run 26 more miles, maybe. And we can shift our energy and should. I want to say should because it's my intention in the world that we all experience joy and love and wake up. And these practices bring us to that heightened state of awareness and a higher vibration inside ourselves. And we're all here, us here on this call, to contribute that to the world that, again, my opinion, needs it right now. So it's like I feel it as an imperative to myself, to my children, to my family, to my community, and to the world, to the earth, to the globe.
Yeah. And I think that, you know, all of us too, it's that it's kind of Gandhi's be the change you want to see in the world. And so we need to be the peace and the centeredness and the taking care of ourselves and loving ourselves that we want to see in the rest of the world, and bring that unity into our bodies, our spirit, our psyche. Yeah. And I just started a 5-week program on Sunday. So there's a recording of it, and a few people are joining in this next Sunday. So if anybody's interested, there's a link in there, but that's where we're really going to be going deeply into these practices.
Yeah. So you're running this 5-week program. It's 2 hours each time, which I think is pretty amazing. And it started Sunday, but that's okay. You can still jump in, and you're offering this like really low price of $67 to get a taste and experience all the things that you've shared here in more depth. And so, I just encourage anybody who wants to dive in, and the practices are invaluable. I mean,
and it's a really nice group of people that are there already right now. I think there's 9 people, and just in the first week, people went so deep and were so open and vulnerable and sharing. It was profound. So nice community of people. It's nice to travel as part of what's so wonderful about this weekly call with Robyn and other things. It's like we're all just hungry for whatever little sense of connection that we can get. I mean, Zoom has its limitations, but I'm really enjoying seeing everybody's face and just being here. It's what we can do right now. So yay.
Yeah. So yes, thank you. You're so right. And that's awesome.
Mhm.
So great. I'm so glad you're doing it. Thank you so much for bringing it here. It's so nice. Thank you for waking up early. I know it's not your thing. When Penny and I first got on, she's like, what time do you wake up in the morning? Fishing. So thank you. And thank you everybody for being here. It's so beautiful to see you. Next week, it's community gathering. So it's you and me. And I love that because we get to do more sharing, and we'll go deep with each other and just connect as community. And I just want to say the week after that, my cousin is coming. She is a really lovely woman who has been doing healing work sort of in parallel to me. We're second cousins, and we're not in each other's lives like regularly, but there's so much love and sister energy between us. And yeah, she's just near and dear. And I realized, oh my gosh, you have something incredible to share. So I'm excited about family. So that'll be on the 23rd. So thank you, everybody. The recording will go out later. And please check out Penny's class if you want to dive into these inner peace practices. And I hope everybody has a really blessed day. Feel free to unmute and send some love. And I'll see you next time.